In this video, I am going to show you a couple of templates from Leonie's Selection template set. And this is the Mini Artisan Circle. And it's a 2-inch circle. So the circle itself is going to stitch out at 2 inches. And then you can do a 5, 5.5, 6, 6.5, 7, 7.5, or an 8-inch total size design. It's the type of template that uses the pin. So we're going to put the pin into the center of our design. And I'm going to use 8-point crosshairs to get this design going. So I'm going to show you those. Here are my 8 points. And here is my pin right in the center. I'm going to use this line here on my template to line up with my crosshairs. You don't have to do complete circles if you don't want to. You could have more lines on here. I'm going to put this on the 6. I kind of like the interlocking circles. And there we go. Right here, I have it on the number 6. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch a complete circle, and then I'm going to rotate my template, and I'm going to have to travel along my circle to get to my next spot. I'm going to stitch clockwise, so I'm going to pull my needle over here on the right side of the template. It doesn't really matter where. I'm going to hold my threads tight and start stitching my circle. And now I'm going to turn my template. I'm going to line it up. And as you can see, I'm going to need to travel a little bit up the circle. So let's see where we're at. So when I stop this next time, I'm going to have to do a circle and a half, like a circle and 3/4. So I'm going to just travel up this circle a couple of stitches. I have to kind of pay attention to my thread tail here. I'm going to go to the right. Get my thread tails out of the way. It's just going to be this one circle that I'm going to have to pay attention to my thread tails. Now I want them back on the other side. Oh, there we go. I just don't want to stitch over them. And this time I'm going to stop. There's a little mark here on the template where the puzzle piece fits. And I'm going to turn this. That's too far. I need to come back down. Let's see where that is. That's almost perfect. I need one more stitch. There we go. And now I'm off by 1 stitch, but let's see where that is. I could put a little mark on my tape right here. I could use a ruler sticker. I'm just going to put a little mark here. This kind of tells me where I want to stop for this particular size. It just makes it faster for me as I move along. Now I'm going to slip here, and I'm going to take that thread and put it under the template. That'll keep it out of the way. There we go, we have to go. And I'm always going to stitch counterclockwise. And my puzzle piece is coming out a little bit, and I got a little bump there. That's my fault. Get my hand out of the way so you can see better. Stop about there. It's almost where I need to be, maybe up a little bit higher, one stitch higher. And I'm gonna make sure that this tape, to be careful of my little puzzle piece here. So we're going to stop a stitch or two above that where that little line is, and that's almost perfect. There we go. It's a stitch. I'm going to hold this puzzle piece when I get to this area. About one stitch above the line I drew. That was not where I wanted to be, but it's all right. I'm just gonna take a couple of stitches to get back on the template. That I did not go far enough. Here we go. And I've completed. And you can either pull your threads or lock them here. I just lock them. And then I'm going to pull my bobbin thread up from the bottom. And take my template away. And now I can just trim all these threads. And then these threads in the beginning, I would bury them. I want to show you something. If you notice here, let me take the pin out so I don't hurt myself. In the very beginning, we have kind of a separation, and it's because I didn't take an extra stitch at the beginning. I just started sailing off, and you end up with something that looks like this, where there's a little separation in your stitches. I'm going to show you how you fix that. So I'm going to take my beginning threads and I'm going to put them in a knot. And the way that I finish my threads off, is this the right needle? That may not be the right needle. Is I put my needle down into the fabric about a 1/4 inch away from where I'm going to bury at. And then that puts my knot a 1/4 inch away, right? So I have this little gap here, and that's going to help me. Because what I'm going to do next is what I call a cheater stitch. And in order to do that, I need to find a needle. And I like to use self-threading needles from the top. The ones in the side I've had snag my batting before, so I always like to do them from the top. So I take my thread and I twist it just a little bit here, and now I'm going to put the needle on. And I'm going to try and do this on camera as best I can. I'm going to go right in the center or in one of these stitches. So let's go into this stitch right here. What that's going to do, and I'm going into the batting but not through the back. So I hope you can see right there where my needle's going. Right there. Now, when I pull this through, it closes that up, and you can't even tell anymore that I missed a stitch at the very beginning. So if you don't take a stitch in place at the very beginning, and sometimes I do that where I just take off and run, and that's a little, you take off and run, sometimes you'll get that gap, and that's how I fill it in. And this I didn't cut close enough because I was afraid I was going to cut the fabric, because these are not my favorite scissors to do this with. But, okay, so there we have the mini artisan circles. So that's one way that you can use this. The other thing that you can do is you can stitch and put more crosshairs and just stitch to the crosshair. I like to start my butterfly by removing this center piece. So here we have 3 pieces. We have a wing on the right, a wing on the left, and the center piece, which is the body. I remove that. Come in here, and I pull my threads right here. I pull my threads up at the top, especially if I'm going to put in an antenna, and I'm going to show you how to put an antenna in. I'm going to stitch all the way around. There's just that little bump at the bottom. Get my hand out of your way. Now I remove the wings, and I stitch all the way around. Let's get these threads out of the way. I think I just stitched over my threads, which I did not want to do. It's all right, we can fix that. This is a point here. Make sure you take an extra stitch in this area so that you get a nice pointy wing and you don't get a curve in it that's cut off. And then up here, you kind of want to go slow until you get used to how these curves act, till you're comfortable. Okay, now I'm going to remove the butterfly template. And I am going to get out the wave template. It's called Making Waves. And I'm going to use it to put little antenna on my butterfly. Now I'm going to stitch over a couple stitches to get to the other side of the body. I have stable tape on both sides of my template, meaning the top and the bottom. I'm going to flip it so that my antennae mirror each other. Now, if you wanted to, when you were at the top of your antenna, you could, I'm just going to trim these, but I normally wouldn't do that. You can come in here, start at the bottom. You could do this and then put the body in if you wanted to. I think it's easier to do the body first. So in this situation, I would put this wing in. I would come up here. When I got to the top, I would put my other wing in. And then I would take my wings out. You know what? Maybe I wouldn't. It's been a while since I've done this. I would go travel back up to the top so that I'm already at the top when I stop with my butterfly. There we go. Again, take it a little bit slower on these little curves here till you get used to them, because it's really easy to fly off your template. There you go. You could keep doing this. You could have your butterflies be at angles, whatever you wanted. But that's how you can make continuous butterflies.